Air Canada with what we paid to go back and forth. But it was a good job. It was a great crowd I worked with, an agriculture crowd that worked in supply management and something that we all support. Well, I was able at age 55, I took a pension penalty and I came home and was able to retire. I ended up retiring straight into a job with the Manitoba Rural Adaptation Council, a good not-for-profit organization that funds innovative agriculture projects here. Then in June of 2008, I decided full retirement was in order. I gave up my job at MRAC, started a small advisory services business. It's got me 2 clients. But the timing also coincided with family issues that it was good to be home. Also, in 2008, we had an election. And guess what? You're never too late to wake up. And I had a political awakening with that election. I was an apolitical civil servant for 33 years. I worked with some of the best ministers of agriculture we've had of any color. There was Gene Whalen I started out with, and I had John Wise as a Conservative member, Charlie Mayer. It was good. But things happening in Canada disturbed me so much that after some personal searching and deliberation, I joined the Liberal Party of Canada. I was upset with the political gaming that resulted in an election in 2008. We had just had an election that saw fewer Canadians voting than ever before. It had cost Canada hundreds of millions of dollars to get another minority government. However, democracy had worked. The people of Canada said to those elected officials, go to Ottawa, work on our behalf. I've just been given the 5-minute sign, and I'm just trying to get going here. Anyway, not only do we have a fiscal deficit, we have a democratic deficit with the government in charge right now, and that has to be changed. So ask your questions, and we'll answer them. Thank you.
Terry, you can hang on to the mic. You can hang on to it because the first question is going to come to you. All right, now the fun part, the questions. Let's start, Terry, because you were last to speak, we'll let you speak first on this one. The first question, if asked to vote with the party on an issue to which your constituency has an opposing view, how would you deal with this? And there's a second part to this. What if the party view is conflicting with your own personal views? 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Well, I'm going to be elected as a member of Provencher, as the member for Provencher. Everybody in this riding will have a say. If they get in touch with me, they'll tell me how they feel. I'll get a feeling for that. I also am a member of the party of the Liberal Party of Canada, and as a member of that, I'm a team player. So I will be weighing. I can't tell you beforehand how I'll vote on this issue or that issue, but I would certainly weigh where the party is coming from, where the constituency is, and I know there are varying opinions in this constituency about issues. We don't all agree just because we're from Provencher. So I would have to weigh everything, take the balance, do the soul searching that I've done before, and hopefully come up with the best thing for Canada and Canadians.
Janine?
I think to answer this question, though I'm not going to be elected into this position, I recognize that, but I do think that every vote that goes for Green gives Mr. Taves and the Harper government a very clear message that there are a lot of us deeply committed to the principles that they are so blithely ignoring. And so I will answer to the fact that our Green Party platform speaks quite eloquently about participatory democracy, and consulting with one another, talking with one another, building consensus, I think, is very important to helping all of us be smarter than any one of us. So that will be my approach in looking at what kind of education needs to be done for myself, for my party, for the people, so that we can together work in a collegial and cooperative way to come to a solution.
Well, pardon me, that's a bit too loud, isn't it? When I was Attorney General and Lennon was Minister of Labour and Minister of Natural Resources in provincial government, I maintained constituency office hours. And I was there, not some staff person. I was there. And I advertised my constituency office hours. And I had people come from all over the city. to present problems to me, for me to try and find help for them. And often I was able to help them. Not always, but often. I believe in listening to the people. And if I am your MP, and I hope I will be your MP after May the 2nd, I will hold regular meetings throughout this constituency, and I pledge you that, where I'll invite you to come and question me about things that are happening in government, and I will listen to your concerns. When there is an issue that the constituents clearly indicate to me is something that is against their interest, I would certainly go back to my caucus and tell them that I have a very grave problem, that my constituents don't agree with this, and I would try to change the views of my colleagues. If I fail to, I would report back to my constituents, then make a decision. And depending on what the issue was, I might go along with the government, but on the other hand, I may say, I draw the line here, and I will step out of the government caucus, or I will vote against that particular measure. I'm not afraid to stand up and be counted.
I'm not afraid to stand up either. And so for those of you back there who cannot see us because we're seated at the same level that you are, to do you the courtesy, I would rather stand up so that you can see us answer the question. A great question that was. And for the Christian Heritage Party, I can say this, that when it comes to moral issues, issues of conscience, the reality is that we cannot compromise our values, our principles, because they come directly from God. And we sang earlier, God keep our land glorious and free. So on moral issues, we would not compromise. However, on economic issues, on other political issues, whatever the issues of the day are concerning the constituents of Provencher and the needs of our great country from coast to coast, we would be willing to dialogue, we'd be willing to work together, to be consensus builders, to be mediators, as it were, to try and draw some common ground, and then to best represent, obviously, the views of the constituents here in Provencher, but also what's in the best interest of our entire nation of Canada. If you remember back in 1988, some of you can remember that far back, the key issue was the fair trade election, free trade election. And at that time, not everybody in Canada agreed with free trade. There were many that supported it strongly, passionately, and obviously we enjoy the benefits of free trade today. But the reality is not all Canadians and not every sector in Canadian society embraced or supported free trade. But the reality is that there was a determination, a decision that was made, and ultimately we all receive the spin-off benefits of that today. The reality is that all of us have some moral compass, something that determines our position on right and wrong, and a standard that determines our decision-making. And we need to be consistent with and committed to that value system. Thank you.
Thank you. All of us here come forward on a platform, and we explain that platform during the course of an election campaign. And it's in the context, then, of that platform campaign that we speak to you about now, that we make our decisions. Because, in fact, you reflect on the principles, on the policies, and say, that, generally speaking, is the individual that I want to represent me. And so we've spoken very clearly as a party, the Conservative Party, where we stand on issues, policy, economic matters, programs, and the like. And it's in that context, then, when you elect me, if you choose to do so on May 2nd, that I will make my decisions. However, there is an exception to that. Our party is very clear that in respect of private members' bills brought forward by private members as opposed to the government, we are free to vote our conscience. On matters of conscience, we are free to vote in a manner which may not accord with the party's policies. And so that is a very important component of the Conservative Party, and I think you see that in action in almost every single vote. So I can honestly look at my constituents and say, I will represent your interests in accordance with the platform that we put out here, and also I will be mindful of the issues of conscience and some of the moral issues that you as constituents have conveyed to me. In terms of keeping in touch with constituents, I think it's a reflection on my efforts that my plurality has generally stayed strong in this riding. I have an interesting comment that is made to me quite frequently in this riding. People will come up to me and say, I'm a Liberal, but I vote for you. In this last election, I'm hearing not only that, but I hear I'm a New Democrat, but I vote for you. I think that's an indication that I've been mindful of people's concerns, of what they want their government to represent, and I will continue to do exactly that.
I guess a party does not have platform for every issues. So we have the main platform that we, of course, obviously agree with. And for the rest of the issues, it's up to each MP to go and consult, preferably consult their constituents so they can craft their own platform or consult their constituents. And so also, if elected, and we'll have in place ways for people to communicate, the constant line of communication, to make sure that the MP remains accountable and does not just go away somewhere and make his own decision. So there will be like an open forum on the internet where people can interact anytime with the MP, discuss on issues, debates, give ideas, and also click on quick thumbs up, thumbs down to keep a quick poll of what people think on each specific issues. And also, what if, like, we have a leader, but the leader won't dictate policies for us. It's up to us and to consult the experts or the constituents. And what if my personal view conflict with my constituents? I guess either someone, like, of course you can't always be right, but either maybe there's some information that my constituents does not have that I know about, then it's up to me to provide the leadership of providing that information to my constituents to help them make the right decision. So, but if it still does not work, so maybe I should evaluate my own position. Maybe I'm the one who is on their own side, or, I'm representing the constituents. So it will be, in the end, I guess you have to accept what the constituents majority wants. And also, of course, you cannot have blanket, get elected. Doesn't mean you can do whatever you want just because you get into a majority government. Like, I guess you still have to consult your constituents on issues by issues because there's no blanket approval. Thank you.
Okay, the next question. Oh, I'm sorry. No, well, that wasn't directed towards you, but... Or did you want one anyways? Yeah, all right. Well, you'll get your chance. Okay, the next question, we're going to start with Al on this one. How will your party balance economic stimulus programs with fiscal responsibility?
Time and again in the history of Western civilization, we've encountered depressions. And I think that Franklin Delano Roosevelt set the best example of what government can do when economic forces cause deep depression. The government has to act, and act decisively. And there's always a great backlog of work that governments can do. Building more clean power.